How much value does a multi-year starter at left tackle have in the transfer portal?
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back into the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal news. I am your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football writer and recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Joe Cotton, left tackle, South Dakota, 6'7", 310 pounds. 2 years of eligibility remaining. He has started each of the last two seasons after redshirting his freshman year for South Dakota. This is a young man that's about to get paid, and I'll break down why. First off, if you look at the most important thing that college coaches really want from a player, it goes back to an old saying that I use constantly, and I'll use it again right here. Your best ability is your availability. During the last two seasons, Joe Cotton has started 13 games. And that was for each of the years. In 2023, 712 snaps. 2024, 723. He shows up, puts in his time, and he goes home. Each and every day, Joe Cotton shows up, especially if you're the player protecting the blind side of a quarterback. That is invaluable. Speaking of pass protection, and here are the Pro Football Focus numbers for this young man, it puts things in perspective. As a 2023 player, this is the first year, keep in mind now. As a left tackle, he started every game as a redshirt freshman, but his pass pro numbers were 75 or 79.1. 79.1. Overall that year, 65.1 for offense. Run blocking, 57.8. Pass protection, once again, 79.1. Gave up 3 sacks and allowed 16 pressures, like hits, hurries, and of course, sacks combined. Moving to this past season, 2024, for Joe Cotton at South Dakota. Offensive grade, 81.1. The year before now, 65.1. So he went up 16. That's a lot. Run blocking went from 57.8 the year before to 82.8. And then pass protection actually went down just a tick at 77.3, but he didn't give up any sacks or any pressure. So I'm not sure that grade's 100% on the mark, but I like the 0 sacks, and I like the consistency from year to year, not just with durability, but Joe Cotton didn't give up any sacks that second year, and only 3 over 2 seasons, however you break it up. That's a great way to look at him as a prospect. Now, for the first question that any naysayers might have about him, Brian, he played FCS. Yeah, okay. So did a lot of other guys that have moved up and been dudes. How's Jared Verse doing in the NFL? He played at Albany before going to Florida State. Was like one of the best players in the NFL as a rookie. Sometimes it just happens differently. Nobody wanted Jared Verse out of high school. He's from Dayton, Ohio. That is a football-rich area. Everybody that has coaches in the Midwest, whether it's MAC, Big Ten, Division I, 2, or 3, everybody recruits that area in the greater Central Ohio area. Like that's an hour from Columbus. It's full of football. Nobody went after it. Late bloomer. Joe Cotton, he had the size, but he didn't make it for whatever reason. He ends up at South Dakota. I'm sure he would have rather have gone, whether he wants to admit it or not, to a Big Ten program like Wisconsin or maybe Michigan, whatever. But he ends up at South Dakota. He's made the most of it. In the back-to-back years with the productivity and the consistency of being on the field, again, I say, and I'll give my number at the end of the show, will get him paid in the portal. Here are some other things to consider. He played against Wisconsin. Now, obviously, that's a step up in competition from FCS. It's pretty self-explanatory. Run blocking grade was 64.2. Pass protection, 77.3. Okay. Did he have any bad performances? He's human too. Joe Cotton, the worst performance was against North Dakota State. That's a really, really good program. Pass protection, 50.2. Run blocking, 57. So they got him. He is fallible, but that's just one football game. Now let's talk about the semantics of the deal. What do I mean by that? There's a massive difference between the window in wintertime and the one in the springtime. In the winter is when most people get in the portal. There are more players. It drives down the prices because there are more options. As they say, supply and demand. There aren't going to be a whole lot of tackles that are 6'7", 310, regardless of experience, PFF grades, eligibility, or anything else. It's just about the traits that he has physically you can't teach. That's first. You can't teach 6'7", 310. Second, that durability point, you can say it 100 times. You wouldn't have said it enough. Third, productivity as a left tackle. Again, you can't have your quarterback getting hit. Can't do it. So that brings up a few things to talk about overall. Number one, the eligibility factor. He has 2 years because he redshirted his freshman year. So technically, who knows how he'll do it the first year he's in the P4. But if he doesn't turn pro, he technically has another year of eligibility at that school. If you can bolster your lineup, not only in 2025, but potentially 2026, who doesn't want a starting left tackle with these kind of numbers? And again, how many others are even going to be close to him? There'll be a few, but Joe Cotton picked the spring window to enter, and I think he's going to get paid a little extra for it. Supply and demand. Finally, I just want to come back to something I said a little bit ago, and this is why I think the final number goes up the most. I don't know what school it is. I don't know which coach will make the decision or push for it from the head coach. They're going to be worried about a really good quarterback they either have coming up the ranks, that's going to be their guy, or a guy that has a chance to get drafted. And they're going to be like, you know what? I'd rather pay the extra $100K or whatever the number is from where we're at and where Joe Cotton is and his agent, instead of risking our really talented quarterback, again, insert, young guy, veteran, whatever it is. We can't afford for him to get hit. That's it. There is no specialty to that. It's just like, how often do you win big when your quarterback is sitting on his butt? The answer is never. Quarterbacks that go down consistently, their ability to perform goes down because they're worried about what's going on around them. Their eyes come down. They lose sight of what happens down the field where they need to have their eyes, and then you lose football games. Even if they're only getting hit some, if they have a really bad game earlier in the year because the offensive tackle is getting smoked, ask Carson Beck from what Georgia had in 23 to 24 at the offensive line. They gave it 25 sacks last year. Totally different player. If you look at that, you have to understand the fact that offensive tackle play has a value that is very, very complex. I think that this young man, and this is my prediction, Joe Cotton will get about $1 million minimum to go for a year. Now, the second year, if he comes back, I imagine that'd be more. And I'm being very conservative with that number. I would not be surprised if he got closer to $2 million. Would not be surprised at all. It just depends on who all gets involved. This could be a bidding war. If he's open-minded to the entire United States, it is very, very possible that Joe Cotton ends up playing at a program that's nowhere near South Dakota, but he's going to earn it. So again, just to remind yourself of this, the window that he's in changes the price. I don't think he would have made as much if he'd have went into portal in December. Going in April is a big, big difference. There won't be as many guys, and there's a very limited amount of time because everybody's gone through spring already. You have all these programs that have gone through it, and they see that first or second game, they've got a tough opponent with a good pass rusher. You got to get an experienced guy. You can't just rely on some redshirt freshman. You want to see it. Joe Cotton has been through it. I know it's the FCS level, but that is still a lot better than somebody that's just a highly regarded high school recruit that's a redshirt freshman or true freshman, something like that. Maybe a school will pass on him if they've got a redshirt junior that's at least played. That's possible, but there are going to be a bunch of schools go after this kid. And I think he's a really good football player, and I wish him all the best. So hopefully for him, Joe Cotton ends up with a couple $1 million per year. It would not surprise me, but like bottom end, I'm saying $1 million a year is what he's going to get. And I think I'm being very conservative with that. So he's earned it. And I hope he gets that money. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day. Truly appreciate you stopping in to get all your recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal news. I'm going to be doing several of these profiles over the next several days as players get in the portal. Going to focus more on offensive tackle, defensive line, quarterback, and any special players. It's pretty self-explanatory. The guys that make a splash. Why? We're going to be talking about those individuals here on the Portal Podcast. Please give us a 5-star review. If you're on Apple or anywhere you download your pods, please like and subscribe. We will see you again soon on the Portal Podcast.